Hey, have you ever heard of the Phantom of the Express train? No? Well, get ready, because this is one of those stories that will make even the train driver sleep with the lights on. They say that in the mountains of the United States, there is a train that appears out of nowhere, in the middle of the night, honking as if it were still running. But this train, no one drives it. At least, no one alive. And the worst part, if you agree to hitch a ride, you can forget about coming back. The story begins in 1902, on a freezing night. Part 1. The Tragedy of the Midnight Express. Look, it all started on a freezing cold night in 1902. It was a really cold winter, the kind that even wolves avoid going out. The train was called the Midnight Express, and it was famous for crossing the country from one end to the other, carrying people, goods, and apparently, some secrets too. That night, the train left the station as usual, everything normal. The trails were covered in ice. The thick fog made the headlamp look like a lit candle in a glass. But no one realized that there was an error in the signaling system. A simple but fatal mistake. As the Midnight Express hurtled down the tracks at nearly 100 miles per hour, another train was coming in the opposite direction, in the same tunnel. A narrow tunnel, in the middle of the mountains. And then, my friend, it was a matter of seconds. A crash so loud that the locals thought the mountain had collapsed. What was left was twisted metal, smoke, and a silence that was only broken by bad things. They say none of the passengers survived. Not even the conductor. And there were important people on that train. Politicians, businessmen, even a lady who made award-winning pies at the state fair. But no one got out. At least, not the way they got in. After that, they removed the debris, closed the tunnel, and pretended nothing happened. But those who live there know it wasn't just an accident. Part 2. The Ghostly Return. Years passed after the accident. The tunnel was sealed, the tracks were overgrown, and the government pretended that the Midnight Express never happened. But the residents of the nearby villages, they didn't forget. And they couldn't. Because that's when things started to get weird. Every now and then, during the coldest mornings, they would begin to hear a distant sound. First very faint, a chuck-chuck-chuck, as if a train was coming slowly. Then the whistle. A long, sad whistle, cutting through the night like a hot knife through butter. But the problem is, there was no train there. People passing by swore they saw the tracks tremble, even after years of no maintenance. Some even saw the locomotive emerge from the fog, completely covered in a greenish light, as if it had come straight from the beyond. And inside it, shadows. Figures at the windows. Standing still. Watching. Once, a man who had lived there since he was a boy said he had seen the entire train pass by him, without making a sound. Dead silence, you know? And right there, in the locomotive in front, was the conductor. But he didn't look well. He was too thin with tight skin, and eyes as deep as a dry well. He wore an old uniform, a crooked cap on his head, and he was carrying a bell in his hand. He looked straight at the old man and smiled. The kind that has nothing friendly about it. After that, the train disappeared into the mist, as if it had never been there. But the trail remained. The burnt grass, the newly marked trails, and the cold. A strange cold that chilled you to the bone. Since then, this train has been called the Ghost Express. It only appears to some. Always at dawn. Always when no one else can help. But first, I would like to ask you, are you enjoying it? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Part 3. The One-Way Trip. Now, the scariest part of this story isn't even the train itself. It's what happens if you, for some reason only God knows, decide to accept a ride from it. They say that sometimes, only sometimes, the ghost of the Midnight Express stops. In the middle of nowhere. It could be on a deserted road, in a forgotten village, or even at the end of a track that was torn up decades ago. And there, with a bone-chilling creak, it opens its doors. The conductor appears at the entrance of the carriage, ringing that old bell and staring straight at you, like he's been waiting. He doesn't say a word. Just reaches out his hand, inviting you. And then, my friend, if you step in, that's it. There's no turning back. No one really knows where the train goes, whether it's the afterlife, limbo, or just an eternal loop between ghostly stations. What is known is that those who board are never seen again. Ever. No body, no soul, no trace of identity. There was a girl years ago who disappeared just like that. She was coming back from a party, drunk, telling everyone she'd take the first train that came by. And guess what? The station cameras recorded her boarding something that wasn't on that night's schedule. You only see her getting on the train, smiling, and then silence. Some believe the train takes passengers with unfinished business. People who died without realizing it, or who cheated death and ended up with a displaced soul. Others say it's a trap. The train hunts the lost, the lonely, the vulnerable. And there are those who say that if you hear the whistle and don't run, like really run without looking back, it might stop for you too. And then, well, you know. So if on a foggy night, you hear a strange whistle coming from a place with no tracks, don't follow the sound. And for the love of your mother, don't accept a ride from any train. Because the Midnight Express is still out there, looking for its next passenger. So that's today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next story.